for the e-bike incentive project, sharing information about this exciting program with you today. Also with us today, we have staff from the program administrator, so they will be available as well when we do question and answer towards the end of the webinar. Just to start off, I want to give a little bit of housekeeping. So we will be doing an overview of the application process for the e-bike incentive project vouchers. We will mostly be focusing on what is different this time around for the April application window than the first application window in December of 2024. Following the presentation, we'll have an opportunity to answer questions. We will be utilizing the question and answer box on Zoom. We will not be taking live questions. So please, you can start entering your questions whenever you feel like it in the Q&A box, and we will get to as many as we're able. Please do also check that Q&A box. Somebody else may have asked your question and the answer may already be in there, but definitely, put your questions in. And again, the Q&A box, not the chat box. We won't be able to do both. If you have any technical questions or having any challenges, feel free to chat that to one of the CalBike staff. It's a slide here. So a little bit of background, how we got here. CalBike has been working to make bicycling better across California, but part of that was helping to get a bill passed to get e-bike vouchers included in Clean Cars for All program, and then subsequently helping win funding in the state budget for the first e-bike incentive program statewide. The program was developed in subsequent years. It took several years to get the program developed. And all the back-end details worked out. And then the program did launch last December with the first round of vouchers being distributed in an application window in December. And here we are in April 2025, and the second window for application is coming up next week. So a little bit of background here. Who is eligible to apply for a voucher? So California residents who are over 18, you can apply for one incentive per person. There is not a limit per household. The income does need to be under the 300% of the federal poverty level. And there is detail at ebikeincentives.org that actually has a nice table of what that 300% means for different household sizes. And that is for a $1,750 voucher. You get an additional $250 added if you are below 225% of the federal poverty level or a resident of a disadvantaged community. And again, that is a state-defined term, and there's more information on the website. So that's the basics on who can apply. And households do include the individual, their spouse or registered domestic partner, children or other dependents living under one roof. That does not include roommates. They don't need to be included. It is basically anyone you are sharing your household income with. So a little bit of recap. During the December application window, around 100,000 people logged in to try to apply for the vouchers. There were 1,500 vouchers available. So there were a lot of folks who were not able to get vouchers at that time, unfortunately. For the application window that will be opening next week, there are 1,000 vouchers available. And so that's how many will be distributed next week. There is a new process that I'll be going over in a minute to help make the application process a little bit smoother. There was feedback given after that first cycle, and so some changes were made that it sounds like will help applicants have an easier time getting through the portal. Doesn't make more vouchers available, unfortunately. I think we'd all like to see that, but that's not part of what we're talking about today. And again, we're talking about how to apply for a voucher and the process there. We won't be able to answer really any other questions in the Q&A about sort of allocations and additional funding any of those questions, but we are talking about how eligible individuals can get a voucher in the application window next week. So an overview of the process. What will happen is you will go to ebikeincentives.org. That is the project website. This is a screenshot that I took 5 minutes ago, so you can see the whole front page. And basically you'll go there and there will be a button, which is highlighted with that big red arrow, a button on the top right that says apply. And the waiting room will open on April 29th between 5 and 6 p.m. So you have an hour to get into that waiting room. So you will go to the website between 5 and 6 p.m. and you will click that apply button. Okay, next slide. And once you click that apply button, you'll get into this sort of portal window. Leave that window open. And as it gets closer to 6 p.m., do not navigate away from that window. You know, have something else going on if you need a distraction while you're waiting, but leave that window open and make sure that it is up there and your internet connection is strong so that you don't potentially lose your place. So basically, you'll be waiting for the portal to open at 6 p.m. Until 6 p.m., you'll see this message that will show how long until the portal opens. And it'll just have that information. You do not need to refresh the page. Just keep the page open once you're there and make sure that that is loaded there for you. So at 6 p.m., what will happen is everyone who is in that waiting room who had clicked apply will be put into a randomization software. So everyone that's in the portal will have an equal opportunity to be selected and will be randomly assigned a number that will determine their place in line. And so that will essentially be the queue. And so whoever is in line at that time will be given a number and that will display on the screen for them. And so no new entrants will be allowed after 6 p.m. The waiting room will close to new entrants. You do need to get in that waiting room between when it opens at 5 and when it closes at 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., basically after you're given that number, people will be let into the application in the order of their number. And so, you know, you may have to wait a little bit to get into the application, even if you have a lower number. It is to ensure that the website doesn't crash. They estimate that it will take about 45 minutes for the 1,000 applications that they're accepting to be completed. Once the 1,000 applications have been completed, the portal will close and a message will appear to anyone that has not been let into the application that it is closed. And I believe there is, so when you get your place in line, the screen will look like this and you will see what your position in line is. If you see on this lower portion of the screen, it says your number in line. And the example here is 99. And it says what time the status was updated. And so if another 100,000 people try to get in on the day of next week, personally, if I got number 50,000 in line, I might not wait in line. I might just go about the rest of my day because the likelihood that you are going to be able to fill out an application is very, very low. However, if there are 1,000 applications that will be accepted and your number is 2,000, you might have an opportunity. People in line ahead of you may leave their computer. They may not finish the application. You may have an opportunity to fill out that application. So we would definitely recommend that if you have a lower number, even if it's over 1,000, that you wait as patiently as you're able to and see if you're able to get into that application. So here again, if you are in the waiting room waiting to get into the application and the number of applications reaches 1,000, this is the message you will get, and it will tell you that the application window is closed and you will not be able to submit an application on that day. We do anticipate that the interest and the folks trying to get an application in will be high again. And so we know that folks who are interested in getting a voucher will not be able to. Not everyone who is eligible is guaranteed a voucher, unfortunately. But you know, the best chance you have is to be in that waiting room between 5 and 6 and see what number you get in line. The randomization is meant to make it more fair and kind of smooth out the process for folks. So also different from last time, there are a couple of steps that are required. There are some videos you're required to watch, and there's also documentation. Different from the last window, you will not be required to upload the documentation or watch the videos during your application while you are filling it out. That can be verified at a later time. So that saves a little bit of time. But again, once you're in the application itself, you have some time to fill it out and submit it before the window closes. So it should be a fairly simple application to fill out. You're verifying your information. We estimated last time that it would be about 15 minutes, so it's a pretty quick application process once you're in there. Okay, so I do have a couple more things to go over before we go into questions. Wanted to just quickly go over what happens after you submit an application. So if you are lucky enough to get into the application and you do submit, the applications are reviewed by the program administrator, who will determine eligibility and then issue vouchers to qualified applicants via email. If your application is determined to be incomplete or the administrator needs additional documentation, they will contact you. You will have 14 days to fix whatever issue, and or your application will be withdrawn. And the sooner you submit that paperwork, the greater your chances of getting that voucher. If you do receive a voucher via email, you'll receive an email from the administrator with a voucher number and amount. So be very clear that it is a voucher, what the amount is. And then you will have 45 days to purchase your eligible e-bike from an approved retailer. Vouchers can only be applied to new e-bikes on the approved list, plus gear such as helmets, panniers, or bags to put on the back of the bike, lights, those sorts of safety equipment purchased at the same time as the bike. There is a list of approved bikes on the ebikeincentives.org website, and also a description of what the criteria are for an eligible e-bike. There is also a map of approved retailers who have applied to be part of the program, understand how the program works, and who are able to accept the vouchers. The voucher is used at the point of sale. It will be applied as a discount at the time you purchase the bike at an approved retailer. So it is not a rebate. You do not have to pay the money up front and then get it back later. We also encourage you to think about what kind of e-bike you might want and potentially go out and test ride it. You do not need to know what type of e-bike you will purchase before applying for the voucher, but it is always a good idea to think about what you'll use it for. Go to your local approved retailer, talk to them about your needs, and they should be able to help you with some recommendations of what bike might fit your needs the best. And if you are not lucky enough to receive a voucher in this round, there is additional funding still left after this round of vouchers. So there will be additional application windows in the future. We don't know when those will be yet, but similar to how this window was announced, that will be announced once that information is available. And there will be similar programming to help folks apply and understand any changes to the program. So with that, let me open up the Q&A here and see what questions are coming in. Okay. So one person asked, last time the waiting room would not let me in until I allowed third-party cookies. Will that be the same? We anticipate that most of the technical requirements will be the same as last time. I will also note, I forgot to mention this earlier, that if you did get in and submit information last time. That information was not saved. There was quite a few folks logging in, so it is a completely new process this time, completely new application. So you will have to submit any information again. Another person asked what exact forms are needed from our taxes to be submitted. It is a tax transcript. It is not your actual tax return. And I believe the information on which there are several types of transcripts, but the information on which transcript is available right on the website. Let's see. Okay, here's a question. Somebody stated that the system was not felt poor last time. What were the significant improvements made? As I mentioned, the ability for folks to log into the waiting room for a full hour is one of the big improvements. Last time, people only had 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., everyone had to press the button, which from a backend perspective puts a lot more stress on the system, the application system. So allowing people to enter the queue, enter the waiting room for that full hour allows the system to process them better. Also the randomization so that if someone had trouble like right when they clicked the button and then they missed getting in the queue or missed getting a good place in the queue because of that this gives them longer, and once they are in they will be randomized and assigned a position. So those are primarily the improvements just in terms of how to get people in line and really clarify and be transparent about how the line process works. Okay. So there are, I'm just reading through questions. Someone asked if living in a rural area is allowed, or is this just for people living in cities? Anyone who is a resident of California who is over 18 years of age is eligible to apply for a $1,750 voucher. There's an additional $250 if additional criteria are met, including living in a designated disadvantaged community. Many of those are urban areas, or being under 225% of the poverty level, but you don't have to live in a city or an urban area to apply. Someone asked if they joined this webinar at 12:13, are they still able to receive? This webinar is just for informational purposes. We are not awarding any vouchers during this webinar. The voucher application window is next week. It will be April 29th, entering the website from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And there are quite a few questions about documentation. So what I'm going to do is open up the website and go through that list with folks. And if, let me just pull up eligibility, just getting this opened and added to the window here so you all can see it. Okay, e-bike incentive project eligibility. So here's the table on the qualifying household income for different household sizes. It's just on the eligibility page. Information on where to find if you live in a disadvantaged community. That will be determined by the administrator though, so you don't have to know before you apply. And let me find, Here is the further detailed information. I clicked voucher process under Get Started. So the basic income verification, you can upload your federal tax return transcript. If you don't have a recent tax return, there is a handy table here to tell you what other information you can use instead of the tax return to prove your income. If you receive any of the following benefits, you can be eligible. So Access Clean California, cash assistance program for immigrants, driving clean assistance program, Medicaid, Medi-Cal for income qualified Medi-Cal, a regional clean cars for all program, Section 8 rental certificate, or supplemental security income. And if you are part of one of those programs, you provide a copy of your benefit awards letter. And there's more information on all of those programs and what letter is required or what piece of information, and if there are any additional requirements. So as you can see, it does get very detailed on what all of the different types of verification are available. And so if you I saw a few people mention if they don't have an award letter. I would say if that is the only criteria, if an award letter is what is required, I would say do your best to get one. And again, if you aren't able to upload that during the application process, that is something that can be provided, verified later. Let's see. So that is kind of that. And if there's any, if the folks from Pedal Ahead want to jump in, if there's anything I'm missing or any further clarification, then that's, happy to have that. And then these programs that I listed, the categorical eligibility. So if you are enrolled in one of the programs I mentioned, a letter showing that you are a member of that program serves as your income qualification for the e-bike incentive project. Okay.
Hey, Kendra.
Yes.
Okay, good. You can hear me. This is Jill. Thank you everyone for being here. I just want to add to what you said. You're doing a great job of covering all the information. But also if you do get in and you fill out your application, when we're reviewing it, if for any reason the documentation isn't correct or missing, we will contact you. We won't just, let it be. So if you are missing something, you'll have 14 days to get it to us after we contact you. So there will be time in the future if something's not correct.
Thank you, Jill. Let's see. Other questions. So there are a few questions about what's to stop people from using AI or multiple terminals to apply. I mean, there's a limit to the number of terminals one person could operate at any one time personally. And I suppose there's not something that would prevent that. The AI question, I think the application itself has multiple steps, and I maybe Jill or someone else has more technical information on how the back end, but I know the system that is used by other similar programs across the country, and so has
Hi,
features.
Kendra. This is Scott. I would just add to that. You're doing a great job. But yeah, just we have numerous layers of bot kind of bot coverage there. So we're working with big name partners. Akamai's pretty well known. They do a lot of this type of stuff, and so does additionally Qt has bot protection as well. So it quarantines any bot traffic, or it'll see it before it really, becomes an issue. With just 1,000 vouchers, we'll be able to detect that pretty early on.
Great. I'll say it's all very, very technical. There's lots of things going on in the back end they're very technical. So one person asked, what is the definition of gross household income? For example, which line on the 1040 form? And I believe if we look here at, let's see, okay, this is how to get your tax transcript. There are a lot of different 1040 forms that are eligible or that people fill out. So I think the lines differ, but it should use that that terminology. Let's see. Let's see. There are some questions about.
Hi, Kendra, this is Adrian. I could
Yeah.
talk more about the 1040
Okay, great.
question. So what we look at, what the program looks at for gross annual household income is exactly that. The gross income of all the income earners in the household. So that would be the applicant, the spouse, and any dependents or domestic partners or guardians. And that refers to the income before adjustments. So that's why we're looking at the tax return transcript and not the 1040 per se that I as an individual would submit on my own, because we're looking at the total gross before deductions.
And the documentation, it's uploaded when it's uploaded as a PDF. That's the acceptable, or are JPEGs also accepted?
Yeah, PDFs, JPEGs, there's quite a few files types that are accepted in the application itself. I would say stick to either a PDF or a JPEG is going to be the best, and just make sure it's legible.
There are some questions about your physical location when you are accessing the online application. I do not believe that there is a screening for where you are located at the time of application. You are eligible if you are eligible. So if you are California resident over the age of 18 and you meet the income qualifications, you can apply. I don't believe it matters or anyone is going to ask where you are physically sitting at the time that you do the application.
Yeah, Kendra, just to add to that, it won't matter. I mean, there are some certain countries that might be blocked just due to kind of trying to cover bot traffic. But when it comes to the documentation, we're looking for California-based IDs, California tax return information. So, regardless of where you are at the time, it shouldn't matter as long as you're following the other requirements.
Perfect. And someone asked, so they just go to the website and click apply once. The answer is yes. You will open up the home page here. You will go to this apply button in the top right corner. You will click apply and you will get that waiting room indication that I showed earlier. You don't need to click that multiple times. Just open it once. Leave that window open between 5 and 6 p.m. Make sure you are on that window as 6 p.m. approaches, and you will be randomized into line and you will be shown your position in line once that has been done. So that is, that's how that works. So one person asks, are there any fun success stories from e-bike voucher recipients that are shared anywhere? I know there are some that have been shared. I know that I believe even CalBike has posted some e-bike profiles of folks who ride e-bikes in the past. I don't believe we've been able to complete any new ones like that for this particular incentive program, but we look forward to being able to do that in the future. I don't know that the program administrators have had the ability to do that yet as well. They've been pretty focused on getting the applications figured out and reviewed and awarded. So, but I think that I know CalBike is interested in talking to folks, and I think there are some other partners such as us, other organizations that are interested in sharing that type of information in the future. Another person asked, if I get a voucher and then can't use it, can I give it to a relative or perhaps sell it? No, you may not. That is, the voucher is issued to the individual. Only that individual can use it. You go to the point of sale with a voucher with someone else's name on it, that will not be able to be used. Okay. Someone asked, how do we sign the application? I use a PC and not a touch screen. And I will defer to our friends with the administrator. I believe that you do not need to physically sign anything using a stylus or anything like that in the
Yeah,
application.
no, you're correct, Kendra. It's just an e-sign, but you can type your name in. You don't have to physically sign it.
And I know we've mentioned this before. Someone asked about the transcripts, and it doesn't stick in my brain either. Do we want the return transcript or the account transcript? I believe it's the return transcript. Is that accurate?
You are correct, Kendra. It is the return transcript.
And I add that to the written answers as well. Someone asked, can I submit my Medicaid renewal letter? I believe that the acceptable, go back to that part of the website. I believe that it is typically the documents are called, a lot of them are called award letters, but that is something that if you have, if you're not sure, you can work with the administrator if they send you a question.
Kendra, yes, we're looking for the award letter, and the reason for that is because we want to see that the insurance was awarded based on income. So that's what we're looking for.
Great. Will the application form, will someone be able to do that on a cell phone?
It is accessible on a cell phone. Obviously, if you've done any kind of web form that's, works on a cell phone and a laptop or desktop or anything, sometimes there are little quirks with the trying to access things on the cell phone. The biggest thing I can say is if you get in and you're uploading your information, there is a pop-up box in the screen to actually finish submitting that upload. That is sometimes harder to find on a cell phone, but we've done lots of testing. It does work on a cell phone. We know people last window were able to apply on their cell phone as well.
Great, thank you. One question, and I know we got this one last time as well. If someone does not receive income from any, if they don't receive Medicaid or any of these other programs, and I'm going to assume that the person asking the question also hasn't filed taxes, because the first way you income qualify is by your tax return transcript. You can also qualify, verify your income through all of the things shown on the screen right now. And then if you aren't in any of those programs, it shows a number of other ways that you can verify your income. So if you have unemployment, workers' compensation, alimony, child support, income from someone who's passed or from a state or trust. There are court documents and bank statements that you can use to document that income. If you have income that is not mentioned anywhere else, that is something that you'll have to reply to that request for information from the program administrator if you want to submit that way. And then you would just need to be able to provide documentation, and they would have to review it to see if it met the requirements. And that sounds like it's a, case by case if that can be verified to the, the standard of these other documents. And to prove that you are a California resident, I think that question has come in as well. You will upload a picture or copy of your valid California driver's license or California state identification card. You don't need additional documents other than that.
And when you're in there, if you're uploading a picture of your driver's license, we only need the front of it. The only reason you would have to upload anything else is if your address that you're currently at doesn't match your driver's license address, then we will ask for another piece of information that does show your current address.
Okay, someone asked if the system will accept a ELIC attachment. I'm assuming that that's referring to like the HEIC, like what Apple iPhones save pictures as occasionally instead of JPEGs.
I think that's what it was too, Kendra Scott. Yeah, it's HEIC. I think it just means high compression, and it's like the Apple phone. But yes, we'll accept that. JPEGs maybe a little bit easier for us to open on our side, but we can make that work too.
Great. Let's see. Someone asked what happens if they don't have a driver's license or state ID to verify their residence?
Andra, that is a requirement from the program. They must have a state issued ID. The only exceptions for that is if they are military stationed in California, which we would request a copy of their orders to show that, or if they are a member of the California recognized, federally recognized tribe, then they could use their tribal ID. But as far as the state ID, they do need one. So if they don't have it at this point, I would recommend that they start working on it now, because that is not something that we can accept something else in place of.
And I'd also mention it does need to be current. It can't be an expired license either.
Adding that to the typed responses. A.
There were a couple of questions about non-taxed benefits. Did you already answer that? Is it just taxable income that counts, or does non-taxable income also count?
I believe all income counts and should be included.
Yeah.
That's correct, Kendra. It is all income that we're looking at.
One person asked if they had a one-time medical expense and withdrew money from a retirement account to cover that in the last year, but their actual income from their job has not changed. Does that mean that they would, if that income was higher last year, would they then not qualify?
Unfortunately, if they did have a withdrawal from like a 401k or a pension or something like that, it is considered income under this program, and that would change their the gross household income. So it may affect their ability to qualify.
A follow-up to the driver's license question, if you have applied for your new ID and have not received it yet in the mail, and you have the receipt from applying for the ID, will that be accepted?
If we reach out to an applicant that submitted an application because they don't have an ID and they submit that form, they will have 14 days to provide the correct document or the ID. So they still need to provide that photo ID. Part of the reason for that photo ID, in addition to verifying that they're a California resident, is because that ID is required when they go pick up the e-bike. The retailer needs to look at the photo and say, okay, this is Kendra. It's the person the voucher is awarded to. So they will have some time to get the ID to us. So it's great that they can show us that they requested the ID. It does not meet the requirement of having the photo ID.
Um, are there Okay, are there any other items? We're getting some of the similar questions. So folks, I encourage you to look in the answered questions. We have, are there any other things folks from the administrator would like to share? While I just scroll through to see if we have any new. It looks like someone is looking at their return transcript and there's a line called total income and a little further down, a line called total positive income. Which one are we looking for?
Kendra, this is Adrian. That's hard for me to comment on without having the transcript in front of me. I could look at 10 transcripts and each one of them is going to be different. And we actually look at the entire transcript. We look at every line on there to determine which items are to be counted per the program. And it's just, there's no way I could comment just based on limited information. It really is an involved process that requires me to look at the entire transcript.
Great. So it sounds like if you think you're close or you think you might qualify, go get in line, try to apply for the voucher, and hopefully the line will be correct. Let's see, someone asked if I receive disability back pay, does that count towards my income eligibility? And my understanding from the previous question about withdrawals from a 401k is that if you received income in 2024, the income is part of your household income. It doesn't matter what flavor the income is, what the source is, that is counted.
That is correct. It would be counted within that specific tax year if it was received. If it was delayed and you receive it in the following tax year, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the full tax year.
Great. Someone asked if a California digital ID would work. And I will just say that if you have a digital ID, it means you were issued a regular ID. And it sounds like this program is asking for a copy of the physical ID. Let's see. Other questions? So some additional questions about the voucher amount and how to use it. So again, the voucher The base voucher amount is $1,750. If you are 225% of the federal poverty level or below, you get an additional $250. You would also get that amount if you are living in one of the designated disadvantaged areas. So that would be a voucher of $2,000. When you are awarded the voucher, if you do make it through the application and everything is verified and you're awarded the voucher, it will say in that email how much it is for. And let's see. Someone asked about, sorry, I just lost my place. Out of the 1,000 vouchers, if you're taking 1,000 applications and some aren't accepted because they're not eligible for whatever reason, how do you distribute the additional vouchers? As we mentioned earlier, there is additional funding available in the program that will be released in a future application window. And so the money does not just disappear, right? It isn't 1,000, and if they're not used, they don't get used. The money does not disappear. It will be awarded. The program will award that later. Someone asked if they are able to use a 1099-R to verify pension income. And I'm just going to open up this chart again. Looks like a 1099 is acceptable for self-employment. It would stand to reason that pension income is just one of pension annuity benefits, a benefit verification letter.
That's correct, Kendra. We would look at the 1099-R.
Perfect. Someone asked if they were dependent on their parents' tax return for 2024, but they are now living independently. Can their W-2 or pay stubs be used for income verification? So the first question here is, what household do you live in? If you are living in that same household with your parents, then you would be, that household income would be what's used. You would also need to be able to provide verification of your wages based on this table that's on the screen. So I do see wages, W-2 or employee pay stubs, 3 months most recent is one of the acceptable forms of documentation. But again, if you are still living in that household, even if you are responsible for your own bills, the household is what's looked at. If someone does not have their 2024 taxes completed yet because they got an extension, are they able to use 2023?
Yeah, right now, if you haven't filed 2024, obviously, it was just tax day, but obviously people have extensions, so you can provide 2023.
Perfect. It looks like we have answered all the questions that have come in the Q&A box. Really appreciate everyone coming with great questions. We will be posting the recording of this webinar on our website. There's lots of information. We encourage folks to just go to ebikeincentives.org and review all of this information that we've been showing on the screen today, and just be ready to go in on the 29th between 5 and 6 p.m. to get in that waiting line. And best of luck to everyone getting their vouchers. We're very excited to be part of this program and sharing this information, and really appreciate the folks from Pedal Ahead, Scott, Adrian, and Jill being here today to help answer questions. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Kendra, we have a little extra time and a couple of last minute questions are coming in, if you don't mind taking.
Yeah,
time.
I mean, okay. Yeah, when I started wrapping up, we had answered all of the questions previously. So whether they're getting asked multiple times. So here's a question again on what essentially what is a household? So a household is the individual. So let's back up. You apply to this program as an individual, but you do have to provide household income. Your household is yourself, your spouse or registered domestic partner, and anyone who is your dependent. So that could be a child, it could be your parent, your older adult parent. That does not include roommates. It is basically the people who are in the household who are related to you by documentation or by being biologically related to you. So that does not count if you have a roommate, or that is not part of your household. So that would not, you would not need to provide that. Someone else asked if you, sorry, I just lost where I was. Okay, the question I was looking at disappeared. And I will note that we've already covered whether or not you're able to use bots, AI, or log in on multiple computers. One person is allowed to apply for one voucher. That's it. You can ask, the answer isn't going to change if you ask it again. So we have already covered that. Okay.
After that, Kendra, I just want to say that some people came in late and they asked if you could quickly run through the process again to apply, maybe at the end.
Sure, yeah. And someone just did also ask if they have a tenant that rents from them. So the tenant's income would not count as part of your household, but you would need to count that rental income as part of your income. So they aren't part of your household. So again, I'll just flip back to the slides quickly. Okay, overview of the application process. So the website, ebikeincentives.org, is the website you'll be going to apply for the voucher. On April 29th, between 5 and 6 p.m., you can go to the website, and in the top right corner, there's a button at the top right corner that says apply. It's highlighted here with this arrow. You will click that button. You only have to click it once. Once you do that, you will be taken to a waiting room. The waiting room will tell you that at 6 p.m. the application will open, and the page will automatically refresh. You do not need to refresh the page yourself. And at 6 p.m., anyone who is in that room who has this screen up will go into a program that will randomize your place in line. And then the next thing that you see at 6 p.m. when the application window opens will be, skip to the next one, will be a page that tells you you have a place in line. And at the bottom here, it says what your number is in line and when that number was last updated. Again, there are 1,000 vouchers available. So, personally, if I was, say, under 2,000, I might stay in that waiting room because we know that some people won't get through the whole application. Maybe someone gets in line, and then what would happen in my household is something would happen with my toddler and I would run away from my computer and never come back and fill out the application. And that would be my loss. But you know, if you're close to 1,000, I would say it's worth it to sit there and see if you get through the line. If you get number 50,000, highly unlikely that you will get through that line and be able to apply. So you may not think that it's worth your time to wait. And so what happens then is people have that time, they're waiting in line, the application opens, you get to apply. At a certain point, there will have been 1,000 applications received. And once that happens, everyone who's in the waiting room will get a screen like this one that will say that the voucher window is closed and that you will not be able to apply. So April 29th is the only time you are able to apply. You need to be in that waiting room between 5 and 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., everyone in the waiting room will be randomized and given a place in line. If you are not in that waiting room by 6 p.m., you will not receive a place in line. So that is how the application process works. If you are able to submit an application, then the administrator will take some time to review your application. They will reach out if you need to supply any documentation or answer any questions for them, and you will have 14 days to respond. Once they have reviewed and determined, if they determine that your application is eligible, you will receive an email that has a voucher with an amount and a voucher number, and then you will be able to go use that at an approved retailer. You can only use it if the name on the application matches the ID and you go to the retailer and they can verify that information. Someone asked, if you get through the queue and start their application, how much time do they have to complete it? Will you get kicked out for inactivity? Correct me if I'm wrong, friends from Pedal Ahead, but I believe you have some time to complete the application. You keep your place in line, but you are up against that, you know, that 1,000 person. There should not be more people currently applying than will hit that 1,000 person cap, but don't, you know, open the window and then just leave and think you're going to come back to it the next day. You need to be ready to submit that application from 6 p.m. on and get that. And they do anticipate that those vouchers will be, those applications will be filled out within about 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's perfect, Kendra. When you get there at 6 p.m., when you're in line, if you're one of those first 1,000, make sure you're ready to fill out the application then, because it's not a come back to it later. You need to go through it and make it all the way to the end and click on that submit button, and you'll get a screen that shows that you've successfully submitted it, as well as an email saying you've successfully submitted it. So I would say if you're there, make sure you're ready to fill it out if you are one of the first 1,000.
Okay. Someone asked, is there a list of documents that they will need to have ready? Please go to the ebikeincentive.org website, click on Get Started, Voucher Process, and it has a list of you need to get started there, what documents are accepted, and what you'll need. See, it looks like someone has set up a Reddit page to discuss the e-bike incentive project. I'll go check that out and see what folks are saying. Hey, if folks wanted to share their success stories of what they've done with their new e-bike after they get the voucher, that would be great to see there, along with whatever other information is going up there. But love to see that kind of content. And there will be future opportunities. If you are not successful this time, there is still, the total program amount is 31 million. I believe this first part of pilot was about 10 million of that. So there will be additional windows in the future. With that, it's 1 p.m. We will post the recording. Thanks for all the great questions. Thanks everyone for being here.